How many people know Jadeveon Clowney, Julius Randle? The reason why you might know these names or maybe even heard of them is because they are up and coming stars in sports today. How they are pro athletes now because they have signed with teams and they've been drafted. But in college they were big stars. Julius Randle actually was one of the biggest stars at UK. Jadeveon Clowney, he had been a big star at South Carolina, at the University of South Carolina for the past 3 years. Now, many of these players are well known and millions of dollars are made off of them, but the millions of dollars they'll never see when they play in college. It goes to the schools. But what these students don't know, or what they fail to see, is that through their tuition, their dorm rooms, their meal plans, their books, their classes are all paid for by the school. Even if they don't get a big scholarship or full ride, like maybe someone like Julius Randle may have obtained, they still get a sum of money from a scholarship that the school gives them. This is also why young athletes should not get paid to play in college. The conversation of why college athletes should not get paid has just recently came up and has gotten big in conversation topics. But it had become big back in 91 to 93, where a group of athletes called the Fab Five that played for the University of Michigan college basketball team. In the 90 to 91 season, before the Fab Five had actually reached the school had barely made $1 million that year before. But when the Fab Five had arrived and they had started to play good and started to win games, people had started to look at them more. The school started to make roughly $30 million. And for the Fab Five, they did not like this because they were kids and they didn't see a single bit of the money. They were having to drive cars that were broken down. They were having to bum money off classmates to eat. But they would also protest. They would wear their warm-up gear inside out during the games. Nike even came out with a shoe called the Fab Five shoe that would represent some of the shoes that the Fab Five would actually wear. And the long black Nike socks that people wear today that go about midway up to the calf, the Fab Five had actually started wearing that. They would wear regular black socks that they would find, and they would color in Nike swooshes on it. And then Nike started to put a swoosh on long black socks and started to make money off that. But even with all this money coming into school and the companies like Nike making money off these players, some of these Fab Five players were inner city kids, which would mean not that they weren't smart or that they didn't apply themselves, but they just didn't have the money to go to a school to get a good education like the University of Michigan. So in order for them to get a good education, they played basketball, and the school was making plenty of money off of them in order for the players to attend the college. In an article in Washington Post, it talks about how coaches are paid millions of dollars to coach the kids in basketball and football. For example, UK's head basketball coach John Calipari is getting paid $5.5 million a year to coach these young and up-and-coming stars, where the players aren't getting paid a dime. But I disagree. Some of these athletes are getting paid by their scholarships to good schools, where by the end of the 4-year degrees, they would be up to $250,000 in debt. Some people don't have to worry about the debt because they might have parents help pay for them, but there are many people out there today that are still in debt. Even doctors make plenty of they'll make plenty of money after they graduate and find a job, but they will still be in major debt because they had so much more school to do, or they had to go to a good school to get a good education. But paying these players for playing their sports could ultimately hurt the college sports. For example, Northwestern University college football players tried to form a union in order to get paid and talk about their preferences for their working conditions. This was shut down by a judge but the university also stated that if the football team had formed a union, that they would shut down the football program indefinitely because they did not feel they should have to pay the players and also give them a scholarship to go to the school. If the major sports in college formed a union, then it would hurt all the other students playing sports, such as lacrosse and softball, sports that don't bring in lots of money. And also to follow NCAA ruling of the Title IX, which states that for every men's sport, there has to be a women's sport that equals it. For baseball, they have women's softball. For football, they have cheerleading. They would have to shut down many sports programs, which could ultimately make some players from these sports miss out on a good education that they would not be able to pay for, which could ultimately drop the U.S. in the U.S. could decline in many ways because people with great minds and people with experience couldn't finally work up into their fields and become more informed on their situations. But if the players are paid and a union is formed, it could change college sports as we know it.